Hey, hey, how's it going? Welcome everyone, once again, welcome back to SVVR 2016. I'm your humble neighborhood host, Bruce Wooden. Hi, how's it going? Everyone excited? Yes? More coffee has been distributed. This is excellent, fantastic. All right, what we're going to do now is move into our keynote section of today. It's gonna be a little different than maybe you've seen. It's gonna be some rapid fire keynote action. We got people that are running the gamut of the industry from all over. They're going to take about 5 minutes each to get on the stage, tell you what they are about, how they're contributing to the virtual reality industry, and it should be quite informative and exciting. So we're going to go ahead and get right into this. We're going to start with Ben Lang, who's executive editor at Road to VR. Road to VR is the first major VR-dedicated web blog publication news outlet that you can say that's happening with virtual reality. It's been right on top of it since 2011, before the rumblings of Palmer on meant-to-be-seen forums are going on. It's pretty awesome. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Ben Lang. Take the stage. Come on up.
Thank you, Bruce. Hey everybody, Bruce gave me a great introduction, but if you missed it, I'm Ben Lang. I am the executive editor of Road to VR, so been doing VR since 2011. People hear that and they say, wait a minute, didn't Oculus start in 2012? Yes, I like to call it half luck, half prospecting. Cool. So we're here now and it's exciting. Back in 2011 it was different. Now it is extremely exciting. There's lots of awesome products coming out. I've been watching this space really, really carefully. I've been going to events around the country, around the world to bring the news to people who can't do that. And I have gotten to know a lot of people. I've seen a lot of amazing progress that we've made, as an industry. And I've also kind of things that I think we can push a little bit further, that we need to push a little bit further, that we will drive a lot further as time goes on. VR is a very long road. I get some people who say, well, Ben, the headsets are launching. We're at the end of the road. What do you do now? Guys, I think VR has a 100-year timeline, honestly. I think we're heading very far, so let's talk about that. So, the year of VR. How many of you have heard this phrase in the last 12 months or 6 months? A lot of you, yes. What does that mean? As far as I can tell, it means that you can go out and you can buy a high-end VR headset as a consumer, and that's awesome. That's incredibly exciting. And really, I see that phrase, and I don't think I've ever actually used it, at least not in a headline, because I think it's a little bit misleading. It kind of suggests that there's going to be just 1 year of VR, right? But no, there's going to be years and years and years of VR. And really, we're just getting started, and there is a lot more to do. So, dreams. Dreams are what initially got me interested in virtual reality back before anyone knew it was really going to go anywhere beyond where it had been in 2011. Dreams are the ultimate proof of virtual reality. They tell us that with the right inputs, our brains can create false realities that feel every bit as real as our real-life experiences. And I don't think that as humans, we're going to stop developing VR technology until we achieve just perfect matrix-level virtual reality technology. We won't see that in our lifetimes, I don't believe. But the exciting part about that is that it means that we all have our entire lifetimes to contribute to this incredible new medium. But that is all a long way off. And I want to leave you guys with something a little bit less abstract. So briefly, here's a few practical places where I think that we should be focusing more VR design exploration in this so-called year of VR. So the first one is social, and I don't want that to... I think social and multiplayer, they go hand in hand. They're together and they're different. All the things I'm going to be talking about are things that I'm going to give you kind of a very, very basic, and I think people need to push these and explore more into them. So social. VR gets a bad rap for being isolated because you wear a headset. But it's only isolating if we design it that way. Everything in VR is twice as fun when it is socialized, or you add another person. Seriously, I haven't seen a single experience in virtual reality where adding another person doesn't make it more fun. So if you are developing something out there and you haven't already tried to just connect one other person into that environment and see what happens, I recommend you try it. When you, just adding the other person there and seeing them present, that is something in and of itself. When you add interactions between those people, magic really starts happening. And don't forget, all the headsets that are launching that many of you are developing for and targeting now, they all have microphones built in, every single one of them, which means every user that you're likely to be touching has a microphone and the ability to talk, and you should be taking advantage of that. Virtual goods. This is very big, or I believe will be huge, and I feel like it's almost not even being talked about right now. So League of Legends, Team Fortress 2, these are traditional games that have made good money by selling essentially cosmetic items that don't really do anything for the game. They're just because the players want to change the way that their character looks. I am someone who has never, ever, ever done that or wanted to do that or buy a virtual hat for my character. And that's because it's just meaningless to me. It's like, it's my character. I don't care about my character. I care about me, right? In VR, it's completely different. If I buy an awesome sword in virtual reality, I get to wield that sword. If I craft myself some kick-ass boots, I get to look down at my feet and I'm wearing the boots. This is amazing. This turns me, a customer that would never go for the digital goods thing to customize the look of my character in traditional gaming, and turns me into someone that thinks that's incredibly cool. And I think that that is only going to compound when you start considering things like crafting, trading, and user-generated content in these, socialized VR experiences. Reaction. And in both of these cases, both of these players brought something about themselves into the game that was not programmed into the game. And the game didn't get to presuppose who they were. They got to be themselves in the game, and I think that's extremely powerful. And we'll cue the clip up here real quick, just to get another example of this player expression, which I think is shown pretty well here. If we can play the clip on the other screen. There we go.
Sorry, that's cool.
Still got blood on it.
Oh shit!
Jesus F.
Don't get shot! Don't get
Shot!
shot!
Shot! No!
Too much fooling around,
Too
man.
much.
Pause that
Too
there.
close to the sun.
Sam, how do you feel?
And switch back to the slides, please. Sorry, that wasn't quite the right clip, but the idea here, you could see just at the end, he was getting frantic, and he was frantically, this is a game called Budget Cuts, and it's hard to explain if you haven't quite seen it, but you're throwing darts at killer robots, and he was frantic. You can't really be frantic in kind of a traditional game. And again, you can see it's in the body language. It's something that we can't really do in VR. If you look at a Call of Duty game, your traditional FPS, traditional gamepad, or played with a traditional gamepad, if I press X to reload, the animation happens. If my 10-year-old niece presses X to reload, the animation happens. She doesn't know how to use a gun. She doesn't know anything about that. And yet, to anybody watching that, ostensibly it's the exact same person. Bringing yourself and bringing your players into VR and letting them do what they do makes the game more immersive. Multimodal experiences. So you hear get in a fighter jet and I sit down and I have my HOTAS controls and my cool buttons, and I'm flying around and I do dogfighting. When I land back at base, I actually physically stand up out of my seat and I walk and I look at my ship and I look at where it's been damaged and maybe I'm replacing parts. Mixing these is a whole unexplored place that we're not really seeing. And there's also opportunities which take place partly in VR and partly outside of VR. A game like Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. This is a game where one player wears the headset and several other players who aren't using any technology, they just have a paper manual, are helping the player with the VR headset on to defuse a virtual bomb. It's a very exciting, very fun game, and almost nothing that other people have done so far. So really, all this is to say that we need to break out of the paradigms of the past. As an industry, we've made incredible, undeniable progress in learning what it means to make content for VR, but there's so much more to do. There's so much further to push. VR is not a subset of gaming or a subset of film or a subset of these other things. These other things, gaming is a subset of VR. Film is going to be a subset of VR. You know, there's such an incredible amount of unexplored design territory that we need to uncover to make experiences which are completely unique to the VR medium. Here in the year of VR, I encourage you guys to do just that. Go and explore and help set the foundation for many, many more years of VR to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Definitely appreciate it. It's awesome perspective. Like everything else is a subset of VR. Fantastic. We're going to keep it right moving to Eric Romo, CEO and co-founder of AltspaceVR. We're talking about socialization. Let's get right to it. Eric, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks to SVVR for putting this on. This event is always fantastic. I remember 2 years ago where we were at a much, much smaller room at the Computer History Museum. I think we fit about this size. I got an opportunity to make a joke about some venture capitalist socks. I'll see if I can repeat that during the presentation here today. You know, the theme of the conference is the dawn of consumer VR, is the start of consumer VR. We're here at the precipice of that. For the first time, we have tens of thousands of people who have access to this hardware, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions sometime soon. This is really a new time in VR's unseen, and it's super exciting. I mean, this is something that brings us all together. A lot of us have been working on this since 2011 or before. So it's an invigorating time for us. It's also, and I think this conference presents a great time for us to reflect on where are we as an industry, where are we going, and what are the steps we need to take to take consumer VR really to the masses. And I thought an interesting way to reflect might be to look at another industry and look at where it was at a similar time in its look at the early days of another industry that's affected the world in a way that's as dramatic as what we think VR will eventually. Yeah. This time and the people who are working on this technology recently, what struck me and what I found really, really interesting was their motivations. Why were they working on these problems? What were they focused on? And what I found, which I just found phenomenally interesting, was they were not so much focused on the idea that we were going to put the collected knowledge of the universe in everybody's pocket, or that we were going to connect everyone in the world onto this distributed network where they would be able to communicate at the speed of light. They were definitely not focused on cat gifts. They were instead focused on connecting 4 research labs so that they could share some computer time, so that they could communicate their research between each other. They were laser focused on the problems of these people at these 4 places that probably numbered in the dozens of researchers. They were focused on solving the problems right in front of them. They were not distracted by what this technology could become in the future. They were instead asking themselves the question of, we have this interesting technology, we have problems of people in front of us, what can we do to solve those problems? And this is, I think, an interesting metaphor for us to think about virtual reality, because it can be easy to talk about where VR is going to go in 100 years. It can be easy to get distracted by the science fiction vision of virtual reality. What's hard is focusing on those problems in front of us. What's hard is creating value for people right now today. And I think as an industry, we have to have the courage to admit that we don't know where this is going. Because certainly those dozens of people 46 and a half years ago had no idea where it was going. We have to have that courage to admit that we don't know the picture of what this could be fully. And it's probably not going to be what we expect. But we have need to have the faith to know that by taking steps down this path, we're going to get to something amazing. In order for us to get 1 billion people in virtual reality, we have to solve the problems of the first 10,000 or 100,000 or million of today. And that focus is what I think we need to do as an industry. And so the question then becomes, what should we focus on? It's been something that Ben said better than I possibly could, that the majority of the investment and time spent in virtual reality right now is in gaming. I think what I wanted to think about was, how do we put that in perspective of another industry? And what I thought was interesting is I just pulled up a little bit of data and looked at some of the things that come out of gaming and the things that come out of communication, is just how much bigger communicating, connecting people can be than gaming. And it's not to say that gaming is not an amazing area of applications for virtual reality, but as Ben said very well, it will be a subset, we think. And I think it's almost fair to say that by definition, if virtual reality will affect 1 billion people, the primary purpose of those 1 billion people will be communication in virtual reality. I think it's, I've read all the books. It's amazing to imagine 1 billion people in an MMORPG. I think it's much more likely that we're going to communicate with our friends and our family in virtual reality. And that's because this emotional impact of communication in VR is something that's totally unlike video chat, audio chat, text messages. Often we have this experience with people we don't know very well, connected with strangers in virtual spaces. If you haven't had the experience of connecting with friends and family and loved ones who might be thousands of miles away in VR, you should do it. It's dramatically different than any other way that you communicate with them. That sense of physical space, that the person that you love is standing right there in front of you when you get to see them once a year, is something that you will never forget. And this is why we think that 1 billion people will use VR, because that emotional resonance that they get from meeting their friend or their family is something that's unlike anything they get in any other form of electronic communication. But it needs to be two things. It needs to be easy to do, and we need to be able to connect to people that we know very quickly. And so that's why a few weeks ago we introduced what we call VR Call, which is a way with a few clicks of a button to connect with anybody in any of your social graphs, SMS, email, Messenger, WeChat, WhatsApp, whatever. Connect with them and be in a private virtual space together instantly. Because these are people that you know in your existing social networks, and this is something you can do very, very quickly. And that's why we introduced this feature. We started with the idea that this would be primarily, because the VR industry is nothing if not for consumers right now, something that would be for friends and family. Something that we connect with people in our social lives. What we quickly realized as we watched people use the product and we use it ourselves was that there was another category of people that was probably underserved by the feature set that we put in. And that was the category that's largely represented in this room today, which is colleagues. People that you work with, people that are in the same industry as you, finding good ways to connect with people that are in your work life. And so that's why today, we are introducing VR Call for Slack. So oh, thanks. Yeah. I would bet if I was standing in the back of the room and looking at lots of laptops, probably half of you are on Slack right now. This is something that has, Slack has revolutionized the way that we communicate in the workplace. There are about 2.5 million people on Slack every single day. And this is something that we're really excited. A couple of clicks and you've got a VR Call private session in any of your private channels or your public channels on Slack. It's available right now, I hope. So in closing, thank you for coming together. Thank you for all the support of SVVR in the industry. I'm excited to talk to the rest of you at the show. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Much appreciated. We're going to move right along to Zvi Greenstein at NVIDIA, General Manager. NVIDIA has done great things to push VR forward. I know they're excited, so I want to hear what he has to talk about. So let's welcome Zvi to the stage.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's an amazing audience. So happy and honored to be here with people who are as excited and passionate about VR as I am. So VR is finally here. After so many years, so many attempts, it's finally coming together with all the right pieces falling in place. Great HMDs from Oculus, from HTC, and from many other vendors. Content is starting to come out in a big way. And then there's the graphics technology. The GPUs today can deliver a great VR experience in a power-efficient manner and price points that appeal to the mass market. With all the three elements in place, we're able to deliver presence to many different people around the world. While we're extremely excited that VR is finally here, we're absolutely not satisfied at NVIDIA. There is a lot more to do. There is a lot more to improve, to innovate. We need better fidelity. We need higher quality. We need more performance, higher resolution, lower latency, better audio, better physics. And as for content, we want to see the content that's available on PC today, which is photorealistic content in VR. So it's a long journey. This is just the beginning of it. It's a journey that we're very proud to be part of and lead. The GPU is a key element in enabling presence today. At the same time, innovations in graphics technology will be key to enhancing presence in the future and to improving the overall VR experience. So with that in mind, there are a couple of things that I would like to get across today. One is our commitment, to reinforce our commitment to innovation, continuous innovations in VR. This is just the beginning of it. We'll continue to innovate, invest, invent. We'll push this industry forward and to show the world what's possible in VR. And the second thing that I would like to get across is to reinforce our commitment to partnership. Partnership with you, the community, the ecosystem partners, to address the biggest challenges in VR and to make sure that this time around, VR really takes off. So when we talk about innovation, we cover product, we cover hardware, software, and SDK. From a product perspective, we have a great product lineup today that deliver a great VR experience in the desktop and the notebook, as well as in the workstation space. A GTX 970, which is the mean recommend spec for VR from both Oculus and HTC, is by far the most popular card out there. It's #1 on the Steam hardware survey. There are millions of cards out there in the field, which by itself is an amazing accomplishment. But that's just the beginning of it. We'll continue to innovate. We're going to continue to scale in performance per watt, and we're going to bring great VR experiences to new and exciting form factors. There's also the software piece. We have a very large and talented driver team in NVIDIA, but in addition to that, we have a large group of dev tech engineers whose job is to make sure that all the experiences and the applications that you're building can run well on GeForce on day one, be it GeForce or Quadro. They run well, they're optimized, and they're tailored for VR. It's extremely important that the gaming space, and I would say that even more important, the virtual reality space. Last but not least, there is the SDK piece, a collection of software features, software technology that when combined with our hardware, deliver better performance, lower latency, and a great VR experience overall. It's a huge focus area for us. We'll continue to innovate. We'll expand our SDK. This is just the beginning of it. And we'll enable more and more partners. These are some of the adopters of our SDK, the headset, the engine, and the applications. Please make sure that you're on the list. If you're not on the list, reach out to us. We'll connect you with our hardware team, with our software team. We'll give you access to our SDK, and we'll make sure that your application, that the experience that you're building is optimized on GeForce or Quadro on day one. Commitment to partnership. This is a very important slide. We're absolutely committed to working with all the ecosystem partners and the community to address the biggest challenges in VR. That includes the headset makers, platform stores, engine, application developers, input tracking, everyone. There are big challenges ahead of us, and the challenges must be addressed via partnership. So let's work together just to make sure that these challenges are being addressed. And to that extent, we're going to apply not only our graphics and display expertise, but also our expertise in deep learning, in AI, in computer vision, in video, and whatever it takes to make sure that this industry takes off. We're always looking for partners to work with. Great technology partners, great content partners, partners who have a unique value proposition in VR, partners who can push the envelope. And to that extent, we can help not just on the technical side. We have a well-oiled marketing and PR machine that's been built over the years with 200 million active gamers, with millions of VR-ready PCs out there, with thousands of channel partners, retailers, e-tailers, system integrators, distributors. We can work together to get your application out, to get your word out on your social media channels, on our marketing material, to get your application and the experience to every corner in the world. Just a couple of examples, a couple of success stories. One of them is SVVR. It's an amazing application developed by Solfar. Puts you on Mount Everest, and VR, they use photogrammetry and the UE4 engine. The other application is Mars 2030, developed by Fusion VR. It's an amazing application, a true-to-life experience, puts you in Mars. These experiences, these applications are very unique in terms of the visual quality and the fidelity that they deliver. They really push the envelope, and they can show the world what VR is about, what can be done in VR. We are very excited to partner with those developers, and we're basically featuring those applications wherever we go. So just in summary, VR is here, and it's here to stay. NVIDIA is absolutely committed. We continue to invest, innovate, push the envelope. We want to work together with you and to bring your experience to every part in the world to make you all successful. Because when you're successful, NVIDIA is successful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Christoph. All right, excellent, definitely feeling inspired. Next up, we have Stuart English, is head of sales over at Nokia. Also, very exciting developments there, so I'll hand it over, Stuart.
Thank you very much. Before I start, quick show of hands. Who's in engineering? And who's in production? Okay, balance on engineering. Look, my slide deck is talking about a camera, but I want to talk to you about a little slightly different thing. A lot of what we talked about so far has been virtual reality in the synthetic generation of images. I want to talk to you about something slightly different, which is presence, sampling the real world, and a telepresence taking you from point A to point B. Before I do that, the main theme about Ozo as a product that we're making is really answering a question. If people in broadcast can have professional cameras like XD Cam, and if people in cinema can have professional cameras like Reds and Aries, why can't we have a professional camera in VR? And that's absolutely what Ozo is. Before I get there, though, I want to just comment on a couple of things that have been said. Why is VR important? For me, VR is important because it actually has a greater sense of believability than any other medium that we've invented yet. And just as one example, I can go into a cinema and look at a 40-foot screen, perfect pixels, perfect colors, everything's beautiful. But I know it's not real for one simple reason. There's a great big black frame right around the picture that says it's not real. When I'm in VR, I've locked the pictures to my head everywhere I turn. It's completely seamless. That is the way it's supposed to be. And we start to invoke something very powerful, and that's called our brain. When our brain gets data the way it expects to see, when it sees video the way it sees video in normal life, when it hears audio the way it hears audio in real life, I would contend to you the believability quotient just went up way, way, way up. So I would contend to you that the value of VR is total immersion, total empathy, total emotion, and ultimately trust. I trust that I'm there. I'm actually engaged in this activity. So with that, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about Ozo. Ozo is a camera. Those are the technical specs. Anybody who's shot on VR cameras will immediately see that there's something quite unique about Ozo, and that is it's a sphere. Why is it a sphere? Well, very simply, when I put headsets on, I turn my head through this geometry. It's an arc. It's not a hexagon. It's not an octagon. It's an arc. So rather than build a camera with basically rectilinear cameras on a rig where we have these facets that join and create major problems in post-production on parallax, what we've done is we've built a spherical camera where all the lenses are hemispherical. So effectively, we're imaging a series of overlapping arcs. More than that, the distance between these individual lenses are approximately the same as the distance between our eyes. So if you want to know the way that Ozo sees the world, quite literally look around you. That is what it sees. That is what we record. And if you want to know how it hears the world, very similar. Embedded in that camera body, there's 8 microphones, which means that we capture a complete 360-degree sound field. And we're going to take those images, and we're going to take them through a post-production process, and we're going to deliver them either into HMD headsets, or we're going to deliver them into cell phones. Now, frankly, from our point of view, we don't care which way it is, but I would pick up on what somebody showed was a graphic. HMDs is in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands kind of numbers. Cell phones is in the tens of millions, hundreds of millions kind of numbers. So both of these are perfectly valid distribution outlets for this content. So if you were to unskin an Ozo, you'd actually see it look a little bit like this. It's got two balls. There's an inner ball, inner core, which is just a metal blob. The sensors are actually sunk into that for a couple of reasons. One is every sensor generates a noise profile, and the noise profile is temperature dependent. So by having all the sensors on the common core, they are literally running at the same operating temperature. They're generating the same noise profile. So as we track across them in virtual reality, there's no obvious change in grain or change in noise pattern that clues the brain to saying, hang on a minute, something's wrong. The other reason for putting it into that core is that we are locking in the geometry of the sensors. So when we reproject our point cloud when we're doing stitching, it's very important that, because it's a stereoscopic camera, that the points line up precisely. We don't want double edges. You know, the brain is a really good computer at working out what's wrong. And we're biologically programmed to see edges, to see motion. So we need to make sure that we don't give the brain clues that this isn't real. You need to let the brain relax into the data set it's getting to believe that, hey, you know what, maybe this is real. So that's the way the camera is set up. A lot of people say you can't fly cameras. You can't move virtual reality cameras. That may be true. That is not true in our case. I'm going to just flip through to software. Software comes with a camera. We have all these on our show floor being demonstrated, so I won't spend any time in here. And basically, this is what the camera is. So if anybody's interested in coming to see in the camera, please come over. The other question I'd just like to touch on very briefly is, how do you shoot content in VR? A lot of people have sort of discussed that VR is sort of different to regular video, and I can absolutely agree with that. For my money, with regular cameras, we're almost on the outside looking in. So we have all these cameras that have got great zoom lenses. Fundamentally, you know, I'm here, I'm imaging you guys like this. But with an Ozo, it's almost like you have to change your perspective completely to think of imaging from the inside out. And the way, when I talk to directors, the most simple way I can explain this to them is simply to say, look, treat it as a human being and finish up this sentence. Come with me, or walk with me, or let me take you. And a lot of where this stuff really works well is when, quite literally, you have a conversation with the camera as if it's one of your best friends. So Ozo is a very socially aware camera. Put it in the middle of the activity. Let the audio in the scene actually guide where people look. Don't try and guide them, force them, like we would in traditional cinematic techniques through cutting and selected dissolves and things like that. Let the activity around the camera guide our observation. So, as an example, how many have been to Cirque du Soleil? Right? One of the powerful things about Cirque du Soleil is it doesn't tell you where to look. There's stuff going on all over the place. And it almost encourages you to keep going to that content over and over and over again, because it's got variances and nuances, and you're not telling people where to look, so they'll go back and back and back again. And that's what I think is one of the great values of VR, is VR video done well. One has a huge believability quotient, and the other one is it has a huge unpredictability quotient. So it really lends it to retelling the story over and over and over again, letting someone get a different nuance of the storyline every time they come to the data. With that, thank you very much. If you want to come to our booth, it's over in the corner, and we have operating cameras and we have examples and headsets, so I'd welcome you during the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Awesome. All right, fantastic. Very excited about the innovation going on with Ozo. Next up, we have Ryan Holmes, the CEO of SpaceVR. And SpaceVR doing some interesting things there with getting a camera actually into space that's specially designed for zero gravity, which is very cool. So we have Ryan Holmes is coming up to the stage at this time. Yeah. Right. There he is. He has something on a tripod. It's exciting. There's something else going on too. Uh-oh. Watch out. All right. Let's welcome Ryan Holmes and guest to the stage. Here we go.
Thank you.
All right.
So I didn't ask him to come up here, but that's good. All right, so slides. Hey everyone, my name's Ryan Holmes. I'm the CEO and founder of SpaceVR. As a civilization, we're facing one primary enemy: a lack of global perspective. With a lack of global perspective, I think we have cities in China blocking out the entire sun with pollution, yet a United States Congress that doesn't believe it's possible to change the climate. With a lack of global perspective, we spend trillions of dollars destroying other countries when we should be reinvesting that in our own future. In space, astronauts go through a life-changing experience that permanently installs a global perspective. This experience is called the overview effect. The overview effect is when you look at the Earth at an intimate place and you look out into the endless stars, and for the first time, you're vividly aware of your place in an infinite universe. I'm happy to announce that we've just raised $1.25 million to launch the world's first virtual reality camera satellite. Overview 1. With Overview 1, everyone will have the opportunity to experience such a transcendent experience. Overview 1 uses two 4K sensors with wide field of view lenses to capture a completely immersive spherical video. Here's a test we did recently at the Golden Gate Bridge. Using our ground stations, we will control Overview 1 to capture every interesting event there is to see in space. City lights breaking through perfect darkness. Lightning storms striking over entire continents. Solar winds hitting the Earth, and the Earth recoiling with beautiful, majestic auroras. SpaceVR content will be available on all major platforms. The day that the overview effect is felt throughout the entire world is the day that we'll live in a new era. An era where we can transcend conflict and borders to take our place as a globally united civilization focused on one goal: improving life for every single human alive. Thank you. I'd like to announce that we're doing a rooftop after party tonight to celebrate this with the entire community. You're all welcome. Everyone gets 2 drink tickets. Come out.
Nice, thank you so much. Fantastic, you put the satellite away. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, that's epic. You should invite that guy that was very excited about the drinks in the last party. Very good. All right, excellent. We're gonna finish up with some exciting keynote action.
How can I compete with launching our telepresent heads into space so we can look down at Earth? I can't compete with that. It's always had those moments where I feel like I'm working on the craziest stuff in town, and then somebody comes up and shows me something even crazier. That's amazing. I want to put the CV1 on and look through that thing. My own moment, it's so exciting to see our ranks swell here. You know, my own comparative moment between VR and the internet itself takes me back 20 years. 1996, I remember walking into the Internet World conference with my CEO. I was working on streaming audio, And we had just been completely heads down for the last couple of years, basically. And I walked in and I was walking to practice the keynote from the back of the hall forward. Internet, you got to remember back then the internet was just a geeky thing. And I looked up as we walked in, and I literally, the hall was set with repeater networks, and it was set for maybe 20,000 people, and you couldn't even see the front where the keynote was going to happen that I was going to be part of. And I was like, oh my God, this thing took off. I think thanks to Oculus and to HTC, that moment will be something like next year, because now we have this hardware and we are going to get it in play, and we're going to start building things on it. The first phase of VR, I think, is the phase that sort of kind of ends now, and it's this phase of immersion, where we're literally trying on the hardware for the first time and realizing that it can transport us to another place. We're doing that mostly in the context of gaming, as we logically should, because we imagine what can happen with games when we are stuck inside them like that. But that's only the first phase. The VR is profoundly disruptive. It is going to, it's going to be disruptive in the same way that the internet and smartphones were. And what that means is that we cannot possibly understand, as Eric said, we have a common trend here that we're all talking about. We cannot understand what's to come. We think this is a big deal the same way we thought the internet was a big deal because we could do, because we could use it as a huge library. This next step beyond gaming will be, shared VR. I don't call it social as much as shared. The big challenge that we face now that we have the hardware, is how do we put ourselves in the place together, because as so many of us have said, that is going to be a profoundly different experience and much more powerful, I believe, even than the amazing gaming experiences we're seeing. There are a number of problems with that are significant that we're all attacking as a community. How do we network all this rich information that we're used to experiencing when we're in these spaces? Content, just start with your avatar. How do we move things that we care about or that we are wearing or using between places? Because if we're going to share this stuff together, we're going to be in different places together. How will we deploy the servers? The internet was a bunch of web servers everybody was deploying. How will we deploy the places that will create this shared VR? What will the hyperlink be? What is the little blue underline for VR? What does that mean? And I think open source, open standards, open systems somehow plays a role in this in the same way that it did with the internet itself. So these are all things that we are going to collectively as a community have to think about and work on. What's cool though, and here I'll show you a clip, a slide and then a video of our stuff. What's cool is the hardware is here now. We can build this stuff. We are fairly far along. High Fidelity, the sandbox, we announced it here. We went into beta yesterday. People have been downloading the software since yesterday, and it works. We can actually, on a laptop or a desktop machine, host a server that you can have 25 people come and talk to each other in that space together. I'll show you this video. This is what that looks and sounds like.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from High Fidelity, and I'm wearing an Oculus Rift, and I've got these hydras for my hands.
And I'm Caitlin with an HTC Vive Pre and hand controllers.
And we wanted to show you really quickly with these hand controllers how we could both play a quick game of tic-tac-toe on our whiteboard here. I'm sort of jumping ahead. Oh, I see. I didn't win there, but anyway, you get the idea.
Now there are tons of things that still need to work better for us to reach the vision of what shared VR will be even in a year, not to mention how amazing it'll be in 5 years. You can see that the body motion of the avatars is of course not yet perfect. We're tracking their head and hands, doing our best to move the rest of the body. But drawing on that whiteboard, the richness of the sound, there are a lot of aspects of this that frankly will work. They are working today. I mean, I don't just encourage you to use our stuff. I encourage all of us as an industry to move this thing forward. I think the possibilities associated with putting ourselves in this place are absolutely amazing. By the way, I think the third phase of VR will be the place itself. We talked about space being our sort of final frontier there. I always say, in closing that once we have ourselves in these places and once we are able to begin creating together in there, I think it's very likely that the sort of third disruptive phase that we'll equally not understand will be something related at the sheer scale of the place that we're able to create together. And when I see those magnificent pictures of space or of space stations, I think honestly of how remarkable and huge what's yet to come is going to be. So again, this stuff is far enough along that we've got a beta of it up right now, and we're having a hackathon this weekend. And thank you very much for giving me a few minutes.
Excellent stuff. Right. Fantastic. All right, that concludes the keynote section of what we're going on today here at SVVR 2016. Up next, I'll have a conversation with Palmer Luckey. We'll talk about VR gaming, so that should be exciting. So give us about a minute or two to transition the stage very slightly, and we'll get that going. So just a minute, hang tight. Here we go.